This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Bruschi.
You know, we talked earlier in the day with a defense attorney, a very well-respected one who I very much value the opinion of, Bob Murdaugh, on the issues of conflict of interest in the Bryan Kohberger case. And he laid it out, I thought, very, very well as to how it is not a conflict of interest. But I want to talk to another defense attorney because it's one of those things where everybody kind of has a different opinion on this. I'll let you decide what you think this is all about. It's not about saying this is the one way, that is the one way. Present it, lay it out there for you, and you choose. Arie Shamuilian, also a criminal defense attorney who we have on regularly. And Arie, I want to throw that at you. I want to get your perspective on this whole Ann Taylor issue. We got the talk of the higher pay. We got talk of the dropping of some of the murder victims' parents, his clients, when the Kohberger thing came up. Is it a conflict of interest because everybody has a different opinion? What say you?
From the start, Ann Taylor's situation has been very interesting in the sense that she represented some of the victims' family. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, the same day of one of the family members' hearings, she drops them and all of a sudden takes Kohberger's case. Mm-hmm. One would assume that there's a conflict of interest there, right? Mm-hmm. Their interests are directly adverse to one another. But Ms. Taylor has met with the judge, and the judge has ruled, no, there isn't any type of conflicts here, and you could continue representing Mr. Kohberger. I don't necessarily agree with this ruling, and I'll tell you why. And that is because if the victim's family takes the stand, Ms. Taylor is going to have the opportunity to cross-examine the same people that she represented at one point. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. She might have some type of internal information as a result of representing the family that could potentially be a conflict at this point, right? Yeah. And I don't know Ms. Taylor's involvement in other people's cases. As a defense attorney, sometimes I do what's called a special appearance, where someone has a case and I specially appear for one brief court hearing and continue something. I don't know the nature of her involvement in the prior family members' cases, but what I do know is that a judge sat there, listened to everything, probably got the court transcripts also, and said there is no conflict here.
And on paper, there probably is not. I'd imagine they are looking at this with some due diligence. Does that matter at the end of the day? Let's say at the end of this thing, he's found guilty. It almost will, no matter what, probably go to some sort of an appeal. Is it that same judge who said, it's okay, you can be part of this case, to Ann Taylor, that makes the decision if it goes to an appellate court, or does it go straight to an appellate court? This is just I don't work in that area of the world to know how this all functions.
Yeah. So that's a good point that you raised. It won't be the trial judge that's going to hear the appeals. Mm-hmm. What happens is that the trial attorneys during the trial need to make a record that, hey, we object to the fact that this court has ruled there is no conflict of interest, etc. Once that record has been made in the trial court, it gets shot up to the Court of Appeals, where in California we have a 3-panel jury at the appeals that listens to the record and the arguments in order to determine, was there an abuse of discretion? That is what an appeals court is going to look at. Was there an abuse of discretion by the trial judge in allowing Ms. Taylor to continue this representation?
So would that require the prosecution to make that documentation now and say, we don't agree with this? And then if it ends up being that direction, that then this could go that way?
Yes. Okay. The prosecution must strike when the iron is hot. Now is the time to make these objections. If you fail to make a timely objection in the trial court, the possibility is there where you waive the objection. It must be timely.
Could the appellate court then say, well, I know the judge said it's okay, but we don't agree with that, and then continue to move this on through appeals?
Exactly. They definitely have the discretion to do that.
Obviously, from the outside of all this, it doesn't look very good. The cell phone triangulation, the DNA, the stalking. We're learning more about how he got fired or why he got fired and some of the details of that with his behaviors toward women and such. I mean, this is going to be a difficult one to defend regardless. So I think the optics on it, whether or not on paper, again, this is completely fine and she's able to defend him, to the outside world, it really is looking like, well, it's going to be a high exposure trial. You're going to get tons of exposure if you're going to be his defense attorney. So if you're wanting that you probably couldn't find much of a better opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime chance. Some more money. It just, none of the optics are good for Ann Taylor, even if this is completely by the book and it's everyone's saying it's okay. That matters.
Yeah, it's definitely risky, but she wants to do her job. She wants to be a zealous advocate for her client, which is now Mr. Kohberger. And I don't know what her strategic move is here. Maybe she wants to throw the state off by continuing on this case. Maybe the DA that's on the case knows that Miss Taylor is much better than her. I don't know. But for someone to be this invested, to continue to want to represent someone, is definitely interesting.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
With Tony Brueski.
Arie Shamuilian, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your insight. Arie's website, myrightslawgroup.com. Thank you guys for listening. Press subscribe wherever you download podcasts. You don't miss any of our breaking updates and discussions on the cases that we are following for you right here. You can follow me on Twitter at TonyBPod. I'm Tony Brueski. Until next time, thanks for listening.